So for the part 2 of our discussion for this week on your biochemistry, we will now move forward to your minerals. So recap lang po ng discussion natin for part 1. We were able to discuss your vitamins. It is subdivided into two. We have your water-soluble vitamins, WS, and then your fat-soluble vitamins. Okay? So kung medyo nakalimutan na po, pwede naman pong balikan yung ating lecture video for that topic. But now, let us now move forward to your minerals. So your minerals, these are inorganic elements. Again, your minerals are inorganic elements kasi po yung mga organic elements natin, they contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and then your nitrogen. So ang difference po ni vitamins with minerals is that vitamins it can be found on your food and on your diet. Meanwhile, these following minerals it occurs naturally on Earth. Again, your vitamins are incorporated on your diet, meanwhile minerals occur naturally on Earth. These minerals are also essential to your nutrition, and they are very consistent in their physical properties. So what are the classification of your minerals? We have macro minerals and the micro minerals. For your macro minerals, it is present in larger amounts, kaya nga po siya macro, in the body or required in larger amounts by the body. So, anything that has to do with larger amounts, papasok po siya sa macro minerals. And then, if we will categorize it into two, we have the cations and the anions of your macro minerals. The cations under macro minerals are your calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. CMSP. So, the anions, diba, negative charges yan, yung mga chloride. So, pag sinulat mo kasi si chloride, Cl, tapos may negative sign sa taas. So, si sulfate and then your phosphorus. So, pag sinulat mo kasi sila potassium, yung kanilang mga element, merong positive sign dyan. So, meaning it is a cation. Now, let's move forward to your microminerals. They are present in smaller amount in the body, or our body requires smaller amounts of these following microminerals. And then again, it is subdivided into cations and anions. So pag cations, mga positive charges ng mga minerals natin yan, we have your iron, zinc, manganese, copper, cobalt, vanadium, molybdenum, selenium, chromium, and silicon. And for the anions of your microminerals, we have the iodine and the fluoride. So parang bumabalik yung mga memories nyo for your periodic table, di ba? Okay, so what are the functions of your minerals? Marami po siyang functions, isa-isahin natin. Mainly, they are for your structure. Okay, yung structure ng katawan natin, mostly it's being comprised of your minerals. The calcium, okay, these are necessary for the growth and the stability of your bones. What else? Yung minerals natin, they are important for the acid-base balance. Very important po yung acid-base balance as we've discussed on your period 1, yung mga acidosis and alkalosis natin, meron po tayong certain pH na maintain for the blood, and that is 7.35 to 7.45. Yung 7.45 for the pH of the blood. And then mainly, may mga minerals po na involved in the acid-base balance of the body. Okay, by the function of your chloride, the neuromuscular irritability, your sodium inaction potential, they can also serve as cofactor. Many enzymes need mineral as cofactors. Okay, example is cobalamin from cobalt. As constituents of hormones and vitamins, they can serve as constituents. It regulates the permeability of the cell membrane. Okay, these following minerals. And then the action of your sodium and potassium. So these are the functions of your minerals. So yung unang mineral na pag-uusapan natin is the calcium, and then the symbol is Ca++. That's a cation. So the calcium, it is the most abundant mineral in the body, comprising about 1.5% or 1 kilogram by mass. Medyo mabigat siya pag pinagsama-sama, no? 1 kilogram of your body is composed of your calcium. So 99%, okay, they can be found in skeleton as calcium phosphate. Okay, meron naman tayong amount na 22 millimoles found in extracellular fluid and 9 millimoles in your plasma. Next is about 10 millimoles exchange between bone and the ECF over for 24 hours. ECF, your extracellular fluid po yung tawag dyan. ECF, extracellular fluid. So your extracellular fluid calcium is 10,000 more than your intracellular fluid. So for the absorption of your calcium, 25 millimoles of calcium is absorbed in the diet. It binds with your calbindin. Okay? Medyo magka-partner po si calcium and si vitamin D. Okay? This means that your calcium absorption is vitamin D dependent. Yun na nga po yung sinabi ko. Okay? Pag nabanggit si calcium, automatic may isip mo na rin kaagad si vitamin D because mainly they act on your bones and we needed the sunlight para ma-activate yung vitamin D that are necessary for your structure as well as yung calcium mo, they are vitamin D dependent. We need 15 to 20 minutes of sunlight per day for the activation of your vitamin D. Okay, vitamin D, highly dependent po dyan yung mga calcium natin. And calcium are needed for the stability and the growth of your bones. So your calcium is the mostly extracellular and it is a good second messenger, sabi po dito. Okay, for the transport of the calcium, most calcium in plasma is bound to what? Yes po, tama po yan, albumin. It is bound to a protein, which is what we call your albumin. It is the corrected calcium level. You need to detect the ionized calcium in the laboratory to know the real calcium level. Pagka po magpapatest yung inyong parents or kayo sa laboratory sa clinical chemistry, to be specific, ang i-request ng doktor para ma-check yung calcium level ng patient, ang tawag na po doon ay ionized calcium because the biologically active calcium, ang tawag na po doon ay ionized calcium. Okay? May mga instances na measure pa rin naman po si total calcium. But if you wanted to know the corrected calcium level, ang kailangan na po talaga natin ipatest dyan ay yung calcium, ionized calcium, because it is the biologically active form of your calcium. Next, calcium exerts many of its biochemical effects by binding to proteins. Example na nga po dyan si albumin na nagbabind siya sa ating proteins. Your calcium are able to bind with your proteins such as albumin. And then meron pa tayong mga ibang examples. We have your calbindins, okay, your calcineurins, your calmodulins, and then the troponins. So among these four, ang very familiar si Ma'am Trina is yung troponins. Ito din yung medyo mahalaga, kaya tatandaan po ninyo. Bigyan po natin ng emphasis si troponins. Okay, it is for the skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle contraction. Okay, ito po isa sa mga markers na kung saan malalaman natin kung meron kung ang patient mo ay nagsisuffer na from a disease, what we call yung sa cardiac muscle, kasi isa siyang marker, ang tawag ay myocardial infarction or MI, pag inaatake na sa puso yung pasyente. So, troponin I to be specific. So, yan. Hint lang po yan ng inyong mga discussion for clinical chemistry. Again, troponin, these are calcium exerts of many biochemical effects into binding the proteins. Troponins is one of an example on which it detects the skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle contraction. To be particular, yung myocardial infarction or yung pag inaatake sa puso yung pasyente. Isa siya sa mga markers. Okay. Next, we have the required daily allowance of the calcium or yung required dietary allowance. It varies depending sa needs. Minsan, yung adult, mas mataas yung needs kasi going to age. Pag nag-age na, mas rumurupok na yung buto. So, mas kailangan na po natin mag-intake na mas maraming amount of calcium compared doon sa mga healthier na younger ones. Okay? Especially yung mga pregnant women natin, like what we've mentioned, dalawa na kasi sila, may baby din na nino-nourish, so kailangan din po ng vitamins and minerals ng baby, so mas mataas po yung requirement ng kanilang calcium need. So yung mga senior citizen natin, dapat umiinom ng mga gatas, milk, that are rich, because they are rich in calcium and with vitamin D. Next mineral is what we call your sodium. It is the most prevalent cation in the extracellular fluid with normal value of 135 to 145 millimoles per liter. Pakitandaan po itong value na to kasi maraming references na nabasa si Ma'am Tina na nagsasabi na ito po yung value niya. So, ibig sabihin kapag madaming references na nagsasabi na 135 to 145 siya, it is close to reality. Ibig sabihin, ito talaga siya. Okay? Kapag reliable, nauulit. Marami na ako nabasang reference na nagsasabing 135 to 145 nga siya. Kasi iba't ibang references, iba't iba yung reference range din nila. Okay? Pero the more na nagsasabi na iisa lang siya, 135 to 145, ibig sabihin close to talaga siyang 135 to 145. Next, for the intracellular, we have 10 millimoles per liter. So again, our human body, it is being comprised of 50 to 70% water. Pangit ng sulat ko na naman. So 2/3 doon, nasa loob ng cell. Marami pong tubig dyan. So 1/3 noon, nasa extracellular fluid and nasa blood plasma. Okay, so yung 2/3, 10 millimoles per liters. And then the total body sodium is 5,000 MEQ. It is responsible for the 90% osmolality of the ECF. So kapag pinag-usapan yung sodium at potassium, automatic papasok sa isip nyo si diffusion, si osmosis. Ayan, babalikan po natin siya dito sa discussion. So the recommended dietary allowance for your sodium is about 6 grams. Okay, because this is due to the increased rate of sweat and sa inyong kidneys. Again, the recommended dietary allowance is about 6 grams. Bakit po 6 grams, ma'am? Medyo mataas-taas compared doon sa iba, mga milligrams lang. This is due to high or increased rate in sweat, kapag nagsusweat ka, di ba? Ayan. And then yung sa kidney function natin. Meron pong exchange dyan between yung sodium and the potassium. So yun, 6 grams po ang RDA ng ating sodium. So for the sodium absorption, your NaH exchanger is the major method of absorption in the intestinal lumen. Okay, yung tawag dyan. So mostly are absorbed in the intestinal lumen in anong tawag dun sa pag-absorb ng ating mga sodium? Active transport. Okay, matatandaan, meron tayong tinatawag na active and passive transport. Yung active transport natin, it requires transporters. Kasi nga, itong mga minerals na to, hindi po sila nakakapasok basta-basta sa ating cells. Kasi ang ating cells ay semi-permeable. So, meron lang certain molecules na allowed para pumasok. Allowed din naman po si sodium, however, kailangan ng transporter. Natatandaan yung itsura ng transporter. Okay, what else? A small amount diffuses passively, and then chlorine bicarbonate exchanger is for your chloride. So the major function of sodium is to maintain the volume of your extracellular fluid. In normal individuals, the kidneys strive to achieve the sodium balance by equaling ingestion with your excretion. So next po. Ayan, meron tayong tinatawag na sodium reabsorption in the kidneys, and then meron po tayong tinatawag na mga antidiuretic hormones. Yan, they are involved in the exchange of the sodium and then the water in the kidneys. So sodium is important in the propagation of action potential and maintenance of the membrane potential of the cell. So next, mapunta naman po tayo sa mga sodium abnormalities. We have yung hyponatremia. Hypo, ibig sabihin, less than 136 millimoles per liter na yung content ng sodium natin sa katawan. And what are the clinical features? We have burns that affect a large area of the body. The patient might experience diarrhea. Diuretic medicines which increase the urine output. It can affect yung hyponatremia. What else? Ang heart failure. Okay, kidney disease. And then syndrome of your inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion. Pakitandaan po si SIADH. And then sweating. So these are the common factors that may contribute to the hyponatremia. So what are the treatments naman po for hyponatremia, Ma'am Trina? So for the severe symptoms, pwede na tayo infuse intravenously. Ibig sabihin, ituturok na doon sa ating mga ugat. Okay? Meron pong 100 ml of 3% sodium chloride infused intravenously for over 10 minutes times 3 as needed. Para ka nang naka-dextrose ba, yung tawag sa hospital. Para meron kang IV. Okay? Pag kung naaalala nyo, may mga kamag-anak kayong nakita nyo na naka-dextrose, may turok ng IV. Ayan. Yun po yung treatment sa hyponatremia if severe yung symptoms. So, from mild to moderate naman with patients at low risk for herniation, pwede naman tayo mag-infuse lang ng 3% sodium chloride. Next naman, if nabanggit yung hyponatremia, we can now talk about your hypernatremia. Hypernatremia is where the sodium level at your body is greater than 145 millimoles per liter. So we have 3 types of your hypernatremia. We have hypovolemic, euvolemic, and hypervolemic. Hypovolemic, it is where your inadequate intake of water. Ibig sabihin yung extracellular fluid mo magiging concentrated na yan. Kasi nga po, tataas yung solute sa katawan mo. Diba? Kasi inadequate, mababa yung solvent sa katawan mo. So meaning, mababa yung water, yung solute sa loob ng katawan mo, mataas po yan. So sa euvolemic naman, too much secretion of water. In cholera, water is secreted without the sodium. Next, hypervolemic, intake of hypertonic solution. Examples na lang yung dye in radiologic processes. Too much will cause to hypervolemia because it is hypertonic. So, magkaroon man po ng hyponatremia or severe hyponatremia or severe hypernatremia yung pasyente, both are not good for the body. Kasi kapag may hypernatremia yung patient, so ibig sabihin mataas yung kanyang sodium level, it can lead to dehydration. Bakit magiging dehydrated yung patient pag mataas yung sodium? Kasi nga mataas yung solute content niya sa kanyang katawan or doon sa cell. Ibig sabihin, mababa yung water, dehydrated siya. Ang tendency sa brain po ng pasyente, kunwari brain yan, it may cause shrinkage, which is not good din naman. So kung natatandaan yung ating discussion sa hypertonic, hypotonic, ganyan po yung principle niya. Whereas for the hyponatremia naman, hyponatremia meaning masyadong mababa yung solute sa katawan niya, mataas yung solvent, mataas yung water, ibig sabihin yan magsuswell yung brain. Okay? Or magkakaroon ng edema. Di ba po, ang swelling of the brain or yung edema, hindi po yan good. Okay? It can lead to death. Okay? So dito na po mapasok yung mga discussion natin sa principles ni osmosis and the diffusion, kung saan sumusunod po kasi, di ba, si water sa inyong salt. So, pag mababa yung solvent, pag mababa masyado yung sodium solute mo sa katawan, tataas naman yung water mo. So, these are the characteristics of your hypernatremia. Like what we've mentioned, pwede tayo maka-experience ng lethargy, confusion, abnormal speech. It can affect the brain. Okay, lalo na kapag masyadong severe. So like what we've discussed, cognitive dysfunction and symptoms associated with neuronal cell shrinkage. Pag masyado ng severe. So now let us proceed with your potassium. Potassium is the primary cation found inside the cells. Again, potassium, primary cation found inside the cells. We have 128 grams of potassium are in the body and yung 98% nasa intracellular. Okay, next. Potassium is well absorbed in the small intestine, but it is a passive process. In the large intestine, your ATPase, active process is about 13%. So matatandaan po ang ating sodium at potassium, meron tayong mnemonics dito. So, si sodium, nasa labas yan, outside. Sodium out, potassium in. Okay, hindi sila pwede magsama. Parating one way or another, yung isa nasa labas, yung isa nasa loob. Ito po, si sodium. Yan. So, ang maganda nating mnemonics for that minerals, yung sodium at potassium, meron tayong sodium outside, Nokia. Sodium outside, potassium inside, and then para po mangyari yon, we will be using ATP. Nokia, sodium out, potassium in and with the use of your ATP. Okay? So for the functions of your potassium, to maintain balance of potassium, the body attempts to equal intake with your excretion. 90% of what is ingested is absorbed and equivalent amount is later on lost in the urine. Itong mga minerals natin, mainly they are found in the earth minerals sila, but pwede naman po sila makita sa ating mga diet, 'di ba? Ang ating mga banana, they are rich in your potassium. So your potassium's main function is its important role is it maintains a membrane potential in nerve cells. Mahalaga po siya sa mga nerve cells natin and muscle tissue. Together with your sodium. Again, ang deemed importance ng potassium natin, it maintains the membrane potential in nerve cells and muscle tissue. So kung matatandaan ninyo, may mga nabalitaan kayong na-ospital kasi hinimatay, naapektuhan yung kanilang brain, or medyo hinimatay lang sila, pinakain lang sila ng saging. Yun nga po yun. Kasi pag masyado ng mababa yung concentration ng potassium sa katawan ng pasyente. Because 40% of your potassium is found in the muscle tissue alone. So pag naisip nyo si potassium, isipin nyo kaagad incorporated yan sa ating mga muscles. So we have your potassium abnormalities. But before we discuss your potassium abnormalities, what are the food sources of your potassium? We have your banana. It is very rich in potassium. Your avocado, they're also rich in potassium. Yung mga potatoes natin. And then your fishes. Okay? So next, discuss na natin yung abnormalities. We have the hypokalemia. It is below 3.5. It is due to the inadequate intake pag wala kang masyadong kinakain na wala sa diet mo masyado yung potassium or yung mga gastrointestinal or skin loss. This is because due to diarrhea or sweating. Kaya yung mga nagda-diarrhea patient natin, mas prone po sila sa dehydration. Next, hypokalemia can cause muscle cramps. Kasi nga po, pag inisip mo si potassium, dapat maiisip mo na rin yung iyong muscle. So pag bumaba yung potassium level mo sa katawan, most likely makaka-experience din yung pasyente ng muscle cramps because the RMP become less excitable. So nagkakaroon ng more negative. So the urinary loss of your potassium, this may be due to the problems in the above factors. So may mga certain medications din na nagkukos ng hypokalemia. Okay, because the usage of your diuretics. So low magnesium level is increased distal tube secretion of your potassium. So ano po bang magandang treatment kapag masyadong mababa na po yung potassium level ng pasyente sa katawan niya? Treatment is basically by stopping loss of potassium. Okay, you have to treat the diarrhea. Stop mo yung pag-take ng mga diuretics mo and give potassium supplementation. Okay? Next naman is your hyperkalemia. It is greater than 5. And what are the causes? It can be caused by ineffective elimination, excessive release from cell death, or excessive intake. So pag nagkaroon ng hyperkalemia, masyado marami na yung potassium level sa katawan, it can lead to tachycardia. So what are the treatment for your hyperkalemia? Calcium. It increases the threshold potential and reduces the myocardial excitability. Okay, pwede din po mag-take ng insulin or salbutamol. It lowers the potassium levels by promoting entry into the cells along with your sodium. Tatandaan po, si insulin, isa po itong hormone that promotes the entry of the glucose into the cell. Pwede niyang gawin, pwede niyang i-lower yung potassium level by promoting, ipapapasukin niya sa loob ng cells together with your sodium. Next, hemodialysis or hemofiltration. When there is kidney failure and there is an ineffective elimination of your potassium. Yung mga patients po natin na mayroong kidney failure, usually hindi na kasi kaya ng katawan nila na i-filter pa, isalain pa yung mga waste products. So, ang gagawa noon para sa kanila is yung machine na lang para po i-filter yung kanilang blood at i-excrete yung mga waste products. Sobrang daming waste products na katawan natin. At pag hindi po natin yun na-excrete, it can be toxic to our body. So, yun po yung ginagawa ni hemodialysis. So, what are the manifestations of your hyperkalemia? Pag masyado mataas yung level ng potassium in the blood, the patient might experience fatigue or weakness. Next one, a feeling of numbness or tingling. Numbness. Ano yung tingling, ma'am? Parang may tingling sensation. Ganun siya. Tingling. Next naman is the patient might experience nausea or vomiting. Next, problems with your breathing. Next, chest pain, kagaya ng na-experience ng patient natin sa picture. Next, palpitations or skip heartbeat. Palpitations. Palpitations. Next mineral is what we call your magnesium. So, ang kanyang symbol is M, big letter M, and small letter G. Your magnesium is the second most abundant intracellular cation. Madami po siyang important functions and it includes it as an activator of more than 300 enzymes. Okay, so all enzymes that utilize ATP, they require magnesium. So, kung babalikan nyo yung mga cycles natin, pathways natin, syempre meron pong mga enzymes dyan to speed up the reaction. So, they will be needing magnesium. Once na nag-utilize po sila ng ating adenosine triphosphate, meron pong kalakipian ng magnesium. So, what are the important functions of magnesium? Mainly for the membrane function. And then, what are the functions in the membrane function? Number 1, for cell adhesion. Cell adhesion. And number 2, the transmembrane electrolyte flux. Okay. Your magnesium serves as a calcium antagonist. Okay, this is mainly for the muscle contraction or relaxation. Kasi yung ating magnesium, they always compete with your calcium and calcium binding loop with 2 proteins. So, antagonist po si magnesium ng inyong calcium. Para mag-aaway sila in layman's term. So, magnesium, these are their structural function. Yung protein, polyribosomes, and then your nucleic acids. So, the recommended dietary allowance for magnesium is around 4.5 per kilogram per day. And then, what are the main sources of your magnesium? We have yung mga green vegetables natin. Ayan. And then, also yung mga mineral water natin. Yung mga mineral water po natin, they mostly contain ions. And one of which is your magnesium. So, kapag ka po nag-work na kayo sa laboratory and then magre-reconstitute kayo ng inyong mga reagents, di ba naka-powderized form yung iba dyan. Tapos, i-reconstitute niyo siya, gagawin niyo siya ng gagawin niyo siyang liquid form para magamit niyo yung reagent. Hindi po dapat tayo gumagamit ng mga mineral water. Ang recommended po doon is to use distilled water and other processes pa po sa laboratory, even sa mga bacteriology, sa clinical chemistry, na nangangailangan ng water, ang ginagamit natin ay distilled water, not mineral water, because these mineral waters, they contain your minerals and other ions that might interfere with the process of your reagent kapag ka nandoon na siya sa loob ng inyong machines. Okay? Distilled water po ang ginagamit. So, going back to the discussion of your magnesium, the sources are your mineral water and then your green leafy vegetables. So, the absorption in the intestine is primarily passive. It is the main mechanism of your absorption. And then your kidney plays a major role in plasma homeostasis of your magnesium. So, ano pong organ yung nagpi-play ng major role in the plasma homeostasis of magnesium? Kidney po. So, now let's move forward to the abnormalities in your magnesium. Mapa-hypo o hyper man po yan. So, unahin na natin si hypomagnesemia. Yun yung tawag sa low level or low concentration of magnesium in the blood. Hypomagnesemia, low concentration of magnesium in the blood. Pag may EMIA, blood po kaagad yan. So, automatic magnesium deficiency siya. So we have gastrointestinal causes. Okay, so what does it do? The disruption of your magnesium absorption. Pag mayroong gastrointestinal causes, automatic yan mayroong disruption of magnesium absorption. So wala pong silbi yung ating mga vitamins and minerals pag hindi po sila na-absorb by our body. So ano lang sila dyan, floating lang sa katawan mo. So hindi niya magagamit yung kanyang maximum potential at ang kanyang optimum activity kapag hindi po siya na-absorb ng katawan at nagamit sa iba't ibang biologic functions. Next, renal loss, renal disease, endocrine causes, yung mga diabetes natin, alcoholism, and drugs. Okay, they cause yung hypomagnesemia. So what are the treatment para naman bumalik po sa dating level ng concentration ng magnesium sa ating katawan? So number 1 treatment dyan is prophylaxis. Unahan mo na, prophylaxis ka na dyan. Okay, next yung IV magnesium natin. Pagka nasa IV na siya, IV magnesium, pag naka-intravenous na po siya, ang tawag na doon ay magnesium sulfate. MgSO4. Okay, so para po ma-prevent natin yung low concentration of magnesium in the blood, we need to treat it with prophylaxis and IV magnesium in the form of magnesium sulfate. What if naman mataas yung concentration ng magnesium sa ating blood? Hypermagnesemia yung tawag. What are the causes? Excessive intake. Masyadong marami kang nakain or nainom na food that contains magnesium. Renal failure. Bakit po? Bakit po kasali yung renal failure sa ating hypermagnesemia? Kasi nga, hindi na-filter yung mga products sa katawan, including yung mga minerals or other waste products. So, mataas po yung level niya sa ating blood. Nade-detect siya. Okay? Yung mga drugs natin like lithium therapy, mga patients that undergo lithium therapy because this enhances your magnesium reabsorption. Okay? So, ito po yung mga abnormalities natin in your magnesium. Next, let's move forward to your chloride. Chloride represents 70% of the body's total negative ion content. About 115 grams are found in an average adult. The recommended dietary allowance, medyo mataas po, 750 to 900 milligrams per day. Because they assist in the conduction of electrical impulses. Yes, ang ating katawan, meron din po tayong mga electrical impulses. And then what are the functions of your chloride? Number 1, it combines with hydrogen in the stomach to make hydrochloric acid. Hindi ko na isusulat yung buo, pero the main function of your chloride is it combines with hydrogen in the stomach to make hydrochloric acid. Number 2 function is it is responsible for the breakdown of your proteins, CHONS, absorption of other minerals, and helps in the absorption of vitamin B12. Again, let me repeat the number 2 function of your chloride. It is responsible for the breakdown of your proteins, absorption of other minerals, and helps in the absorption of your vitamin B12. Okay, bigyan lang natin ng emphasis. Pwede ba itong i-highlight? Highlighter. Ayan. Vitamin B12 reabsorption is dependent on your chloride. Again, yung vitamin B12 reabsorption nyo is highly dependent on your chloride. Okay, the transported into gastric lumen in the exchange of your bicarbonate, a constant exchange of chloride and bicarbonate in the RBC helps maintain the pH, thus the transport of your carbon dioxide. Sorry, palitan lang natin. Okay, so important po si chloride involving doon sa ating mga red blood cells. Okay, kasi ito hematopoietic vitamin to, 'di ba kung matatandaan. So important din po siya sa hydrochloric acid sa ating intestine. And then important siya sa exchange ng chloride and bicarbonate in the RBC para po ma-maintain natin yung acid-base balance. Sorry, lagyan lang natin ng pen. Ayun. Para po ma-maintain natin yung ating acid-base balance. Okay, to maintain the acid-base balance. So, gaganyan-ganyan lang si chloride pero madami po siyang function sa ating katawan, lalo na po sa pag-maintain ng acid-base balance. So, other functions of your chloride is it helps out in the take in and out of your nutrients and water kasi nga po, responsible siya sa absorption of other minerals, helps our muscles contract, helps our nerves carry messages between the brain and the body. It balances our body's fluids and regulates the blood pressure. Importante po yun, na-regulated yung blood pressure natin. It helps our bodies digest food in a way na it combines with your hydrogen in the stomach to make hydrochloric acid. So, connected po siya dyan. And lastly, it helps the oxygenation of our bodies. So, yung chloride abnormalities naman po, we don't usually encounter abnormalities for your chloride. Okay? Pero meron pa din, it results in alkalosis. It is very life-threatening. Nabanggit na natin to sa ating P1. Due to excessive sweating, prolonged diarrhea, water overload, and extensive burns. And chloride toxicity has not been observed in humans. Okay, excess chloride is normally secreted in the urine, sweats, and in your bowels. Next, let's now move forward to your next mineral, which is your sulfur. The body contains about 140 grams of sulfur, mainly in your proteins. This is the only way we can take in the sulfur because elemental sulfur are highly reactive. Okay, so meron po tayong amino acids that contain sulfur. Enumerate natin isa-isa. Number 1, si methionine. Number 2, cysteine. Cysteine. Ayan. Pag nagkaanak ka, pangalanan mo ng cysteine. Pangatlo, si cysteine. Maganda din to cysteine. Number 4 is yung taurine. T-A-U-R-I-N. So yan po yung mga amino acids natin that contain sulfur. It is also present in 2 beta vitamins, yung thiamine and biotin. Mababalikan po ba natin yung ating chemical structure? Yes po, pinakita po ni Ma'am Trina yung chemical structure ni thiamine, meron pong sulfur doon. Di ba may pyrimidine ka doon and then meron kang sulfur sa gilid. Imagine niyo na lang. So what are the food sources of your sulfur? We have yung fish, cheese, egg, even your tea, and red meat. They can be a good source of your sulfur. So what are the functions of your sulfur? As part of protein, sulfur is involved in a number of enzyme reactions and protein synthesis. It is necessary for the formation of your collagen. Okay, collagen makes up our nails, our hair, and other structural body part. Next, function din po ni sulfur yung mga disulfide bonds in the collagen. And your sulfur is important in the cellular respiration as it is needed for the oxidation reduction. Oxidation reduction. So kung marirecall nyo kung ano po yung vitamins na involved in the oxidation reduction, very good. Sa minerals, ito naman po siya. So about 850 milligrams per day. So there is no known toxicity or deficiency to sulfur kasi nga hindi naman po natin siya ini-intake talaga regularly. This is the only way. Ang ano lang po talaga siya, in a way na nasa protein siya. Incorporated siya sa other vitamins and minerals or nasa protein na siya. Next, let's now move forward to your phosphorus. It is an essential mineral primarily used for growth and repairs of cells and tissues. Again, your phosphorus are essential mineral primarily used for growth and repair of cells and in tissues. So 85% of your phosphorus are found in your bones and teeth. In a form of calcium phosphate. Okay, your phosphorus plays an important role in the energy production as it is a component of ADP. So kung babalikan natin yung chemical structure ni ATP, meron po tayong phosphate group dyan. Ayan, nandito siya. Okay, even your nucleic acids, yung DNA and RNA, may phosphate group yun. So, yun yung kanyang function. Okay, yung phosphate, naka-phosphate na siya in a form of phosphate. Component na po siya ng DNA and RNA. So, si phosphate, galing din po yan sa phosphorus. And it may act as a buffer neutralizing acids to maintain the pH in the blood. It also plays a role in maintaining the 7.35 to 7.45 pH in the blood. Okay, as a buffer system, it is important in your renal tubules. So phosphorus abnormalities, deficiency of phosphorus is rare because it can be found in a wide variety of food. So para din siya si vitamin B5. Everywhere, can be found everywhere. Anything that is edible, it contains phosphorus. So the recommended dietary allowance for your phosphorus is about 700 milligrams per day. And like what we've mentioned, as long as the food is edible, it is with your phosphorus. So other than the earlier mentioned functions of your phosphorus, ito pa sila. It forms and keep the strong bones and teeth, help maintains our energy levels in the form of ADP, forms our genetic material DNA and RNA kasi po meron pong phosphate group ang ating mga ang ating mga DNA and RNA, also your ATP. It helps form the membranes of our cells, keeps the healthy function of our brain and nervous system, helps maintain the normal acid balance of your pH, and helps oxygen delivery in your body. Okay, next naman na po na mineral is what we call your iron. It is the most abundant trace metal. Iron is essential for blood production. So 70% are found in your RBCs, muscles, in the form of hemoglobin and myoglobin. So ito yung mga proteins po natin yung mga yan. So 70% are found in your RBC and muscles. So 6% lang yung mga nasa proteins, components of enzymes, and others. So men have 1,000 milligrams stored of iron while women have 300 milligrams. So bakit po mas mataas yung iron storage or content ng men kaysa sa women? I think this has something to do with yung mga bones natin. I have to check on that. Pero yung mas madami kasi yung production ng RBC kasi ng mga guys compared sa girl. So mas marami din po yung kanilang mas madami din yung kanilang iron storage compared sa mga babae. Other than dun sa nagme-mens yung mga babae, nagkakaroon ng menstrual period, and then something to do with the bones or yung structure ng katawan. I have to check on that. Okay, pero ang fact natin today is men have 1,000 milligrams. Mas marami po yung kanilang stored iron compared sa babae. So the most common cause of iron deficiency, ano po yung tingin ninyong most common cause ng iron deficiency? Nakaisip ka na ba ng sakit? Mali po yung sagot ko. Ang tamang sagot ay blood loss. Okay? Blood loss is the most common cause of iron deficiency. So, pwede po yan mag-lead to iron deficiency anemia. So, what are the iron-dependent enzymes? Isa-isahin natin sila. We have your alcohol dehydrogenase, AD. Sunod, catalase. Sunod, cytochrome C reductase. Cytochrome C. May C dito sa gitna. Tapos reductase. Next, lipoxygenase. Lipoxy, XY, genase. Next, xanthine oxidase. Xanthine oxidase. Okay? So, your iron, they are in your RBC. So, parang mahalaga po yung iron natin and that absorption or yung sa hemoglobin natin, molecule. Because our hemoglobin molecule, it contains a globin and then the hem or the hem. And then this hem and globin needs an iron atom para mataas, para makapag-carry siya ng oxygen. Okay? So, balikan lang natin yung picture. So, pagka may mga anemia yung mga patients, mostly, pine-prescribe sila ng doctor to take yung ferrous sulfate. Next, we have your iodine. Iodine is the constituent of your T3 and T4. T3 and T4. T3 means your thyroxine, and then your ion T4 yung triiodotyrosine. Ma'am, baligtad ka naman. Mali. T3, triiodotyrosine. Kaya nga triiodo, di ba? Tri tatlo. Tapos T4, thyroxine. Ayan, kinorek na ni Ma'am ang kanyang sarili. Again, T3, triiodotyrosine. T4, thyroxine. So, bakit familiar yung T3 and T4? Mainly ito yung sa ating mga thyroid. So, incorporated po sa inyong thyroid si iodine. Okay? It is responsible for controlling the basal metabolic rate, and then the recommended dietary allowance for your iodine is about 150 micrograms per day. So ano yung mga common sources ng ating iodine? Usually yung mga seafood, and then yung kelp. I think this is found sa ating karagatan. Parang ano ata siya? Ano bang tawag dun? Yung nasa ilalim nung dagat, parang ganun. Seafood? Basta, parang ganun. Kelp. Kelp yung tawag. Natural sources are seafood, ang yung kelp natin, and iodized salt. So, pagka may mga na-encounter kayo na iodine abnormalities, automatic na isipin nyo kaagad, it has something to do with yung mga thyroid. Okay? Mga thyroid diseases na po yan because iodine deficiency can cause mental retardation and excess iodine is readily excreted in the urine. So, toxicity has the same symptoms with your iodine deficiency. So, pag tinanong, meron po bang difference yung mga clinical features ng signs and symptoms ng mga patient with deficiency and toxicity of your iodine? Meron po bang difference? Wala po. Same lang po sila ng nararamdaman. Next, we have your zinc. Zinc, it is the second most abundant trace metal after iron. Okay, again, your zinc is the second most abundant trace metal after your iron. It is a cofactor in over 300 different enzymes. What else? Your zinc participates in regulation of the blood glucose level. And then it is used to treat your diabetes mellitus. Excuse me. Also, your zinc promotes wound healing and also important in the maintenance of your DNA. Again, your zinc is used to treat your diabetes mellitus, and your zinc is also important in the promotion of wound healing and important in the maintenance of your DNA. So what are your zinc-dependent enzymes? Magbigay po tayo ng isa. Ang tawag natin doon ay alkaline phosphatase. Alkaline phosphatase. Okay, so ito pa yung mga iba pa po tayong example. So zinc abnormalities, meron tayong mga pwedeng ma-experience na zinc deficiency and zinc toxicity. So pakibasa na lang po na maigi. Next, move forward na po tayo sa ating manganese. Manganese, or your MN, malaking M, small na n. 10 milligrams in the body, found in the liver, bones, and kidneys. 1 to 5% is absorbed, excretion mainly through bile and pancreas. So, yung manganese natin, it is poorly absorbed by the body. And then, ano po ba yung mga cofactor for enzymes involved? We have yung tinatawag natin na hydrolysis. Number 2, phosphorylation. Number 3, decarboxylation. Number 4, transamination. Okay? So ito, mga good to know na lang po, your manganese promotes activities of transferase, mga enzymes na naman to, such as glucosyl transferase. Next, superoxide dismutase, superoxide dismutase, DISMUTASE. Next, glutamine synthetase. Okay, so what are the deemed importance of your manganese? It is used for the normal skeletal growth development, glucose utilization, pancreatic function, prevention of sterility, and thyroid hormone synthesis. So, sa manganese abnormalities, wala naman pong masyadong nai-encounter na toxicity sa manganese, not unless it will be inhaled by your miners. Miners, yun ang nagmamine sa Facebook. Hindi. Yung mga nagmimina ng mga gold and other minerals. Yun lang naman yung mga known toxicity for your manganese. Next, we have your copper. Okay, your copper, it is incorporated in a variety of proteins and metalloenzymes, important for the proper growth of bone, connective tissue, and other organs. Okay, it is involved in the formation of your RBC, absorption and utilization of iron, involved in the immune system, tissue repair, and neutralizes yung mga free radicals natin. Involved din po siya sa superoxide dismutase. Ito yung binabanggit ko dito kanina. So, superoxide dismutase. Ayan. Si manganese involved din po sila doon. So, marami tayong mga example ng copper-containing enzymes. Hindi na po natin sila iisa-isahin. Pero, ang mahalaga po kay copper is that it is mostly found in the liver and in the blood. So, pagka nahanap mo na si copper sa blood, in a form of ceruloplasmin na siya. Okay? And bile is the major pathway for excretion. So, yung ating copper, it can be found on your food that are rich, it can be found on food such as seafood, organ meats, whole grains, legumes, and chocolate. They contain your copper. So, ang nakikita nating deemed importance of different vitamins and minerals is they contribute mainly in the development of your bones, in your connective tissues, and other organs. So, yung ating mga pregnant women, talagang marami pong pinapa-intake sa kanila na vitamins and minerals para makatulong doon sa development ng kanilang fetus. So, sa copper abnormalities, meron lang tayong dalawa. Si Menkes disease, ang pinagkaiba lang, same sila actually. Okay, ng ATP7A ang gene defect sa Menkes disease for the copper abnormality. Sa Wilson's disease, ATP7B gene naman ang problem. Okay? Kasi there is something to do with yung involvement niya sa mga formation ng ating mga RBCs, absorption, utilization of iron, ganyan. And then the development of different organs. Kaya po nagkakaroon ng gene defect and nagkakaroon ng copper abnormality such as Menkes disease and then your Wilson's disease. So kita naman po dito si Menkes disease. Ayan, merong nakikitang inability to absorb copper and then magkakaroon po ng X-linked recessive disorder. So hypotonia, sagging facial feature, intellectual disability, the patient might experience seizure, meron siya mga episodes of seizure, and then merong developmental delay. So there is no treatment, dapat lang merong supportive management with IV of copper. So meron siyang poor prognosis. Mas okay po si Wilson's disease to look at the silver lining kasi meron siyang better prognosis compared sa Menkes disease. Kasi meron siyang treatment. Treatment is designed to promote excretion of the copper and diet. Well, that concludes our discussion. Thank you and God bless.